tank crews of the Soviet heavy tank P-11 were recognized and commended by the Soviet command. In May 1945 he was awarded the Order of the Patriotic War, First Class. Being hit 156 times on the whole body, all the shells were destroyed, and the 22 tanks of the German army were destroyed. This battle made the P-11 tank a hero. At the same time, the Soviet Red Army saw hope in the face of the German steel red tide. Pay attention, the video is a bit long. Please hold your tissues tightly. Let's continue. Time goes back to August 20th, 1941. On a grassland outside of Kyrgyzstan, two sleeping tank members were woken up by the sound of a plane in the sky. It was the sound of the German Ju-88, a twin-engine bomber which was bombing Leningrad. The German bomber, who stood in the tank as the commander and the commander-in-chief of Klobatov, smiled at the top of his head, and passed-by was worried. But he clearly knew that they had an even more important task today. According to the intelligence, the 41st Armored Army of the 2nd Armored Regiment of the German Army will launch an attack on the Soviet troops in the town of St. Petersburg on the 20th. And Klobatov's task today is to attack the 41st Armored Army of the German Army, which has been advancing to the town of St. Petersburg. The ambush here is the Soviet KV1 heavy tank that was advanced at the time. 2 months ago, the German army launched the Barbarossa operation and launched a full-scale attack on the Soviet Union. Under the German attack, the Soviet Red Army suffered huge losses. In this situation, the Soviet army needs a weapon that can be effective against the German tank attack. Therefore, the KV1 heavy tank was born. With its 76mm large-capacity cannon and its 90mm front armor, Klobanov was full of confidence in this operation. For this attack, he sent a total of 5 KV1s to participate in the attack. These 5 KV1s loaded with cannons were ambushed in different sections. The command of Klobanov was the KV1 tank of the 8864, ambushed with the hand-drawn warhead on the hillside. Only the cannon tower covered with wood was exposed, and the cannon muzzle was aimed at a narrow road not far away. On both sides of the road is a muddy swamp, and in front of the road is a torrential bend. Therefore, any passing tank must slow down to turn. This is also why Klobanov chose to ambush in this place. Around 2 in the afternoon, the sound of motorcycles was heard from a distance. Klobanov, through observation, saw only a few German motorcycle scouts on the road. Klobanov knew that these scouts came to reconnoiter the road, indicating something was wrong with their tanks. He gestured to the other members, trying not to act rashly. Therefore, the motorbike team did not prevent them from passing through this road. As they passed, the direction of the motorbike came to the sound of the engine. Through the observation port, a German tank was slowly coming. Klobatov was observing while counting the number of German tanks in his mind. 1, 2, 3, 22, and 2 anti-tank guns. This number gave Klobanov a breath of fresh air, but fortunately these 22 tanks were only 38 T-light tanks. There were no heavy tanks in the team. This gave Klobanov and the others a breath of fresh air. At this moment, these 22 tanks had filled the entire road. The tanks on the top were about to reach the bend in front, so they were ready to slow down and turn. At this time, Klobanov waved his hand to prepare. Then, the huge cannon of the T-11 slowly aimed at the first tank on the top. At this moment, the doctor thought that a 76mm armor-piercing shell was coming out of the cannon, sliding through the sky, and flying towards the German tank on the top. The cannon shot through the tank armor and instantly lit a fire. At this moment, the Germans were confused. They didn't know who attacked them. The injured soldiers jumped down from the tank in a panic, head to head. Then another bang, and the second tank was destroyed. At this moment, the tanks in the back reacted. They were ambushed, so they sent a signal and the last tank quickly retreated. However, how could Barov give them a chance to escape? Then he aimed at the last retreating tank with his guns. The last tank of the team was also destroyed. The tank in the middle was unable to advance or retreat. They couldn't move. What they could do was try to find out where they had attacked. At this time, another missile flew over with a blue flame. Another tank was destroyed. At this time, the Germans saw that the one who had attacked them was a Soviet tank ambushed on the opposite hill. So all the German tanks pointed at the high-altitude Soviet tanks and began to counterattack. However, the missile could only hit the turret of the K1. It was not effective. The missile could only leave a deep mark on the turret. At this time, the German soldiers pushed the two anti-tank guns to counterattack the Soviet tank. However, before they had time to equip themselves, they were blown up by Klobanov's order. At this moment, the German soldiers' pants, which can only be used as a target, are all wet. They were scared to find that their tanks could not pierce the Soviet tanks that could only pass through the turret. Since they could not move from front to back, they could only be stuck in the middle. So some tanks tried to drive over from both sides of the road, but soon their hearts were cold. Because the two sides of the road were deep, once the tank fell into it, it could not move at all. The massacre was still going on, and as soon as the gunfire broke out, a little cutie was taken away, and the German tank, which was not destroyed, did not care if it could pierce the other side, and called all the guns over. Although it could not cause effective damage to the KV1, the gunfire still destroyed the aiming lens of the KV1. So, Klobatov ordered the tank to retreat to the car, and retreat to the place where the German could not attack, and then ordered the radio operator to change the damaged aiming lens outside. After changing the aiming lens, he continued to attack the German tank on the lower road fiercely. But under the fire of the German tank, the turret was finally unable to withstand such intense gunfire, which eventually damaged the rotation, preventing it from turning. But this did not make it difficult for Klobanov and others. Since the turret could not rotate to aim, they used the tank to adjust the turret to aim at the target. Although the efficiency was a little slow, the massacre continued. However, 22 German tanks and 2 anti-tank guns had been destroyed by Klobanov and others. On the other side of the battlefield, the enemy's ambush P-11 was also attacking German tanks in the same way. They destroyed 43 German tanks in a day with no casualties. But that doesn't mean that they didn't get hurt. After the end of the battle, Klobanov and his team checked the tank's condition. Their KV-1s were hit 156 times in total, but not a single shell could pierce through the armor. Since then, this battle has made the KV-1 tank famous and also gave the Soviet Red Army hope. And now this road still exists. To commemorate this battle, the road is named Tank.